Hello, I'm Jake Woodrow, civic journalist at Tillow Community Television here in Ayrshire. This week, on The Record, we'll be looking at some of the issues that arose during the April 22nd meeting of Richmond Municipal Council. One of the first issues discussed was the municipality's financial statements for the year ending March 31st, 2023.
Thank you. As the warden said, I'm John McNeil. I'm an audit partner with Grant Thornton, and very pleased to be here tonight. And thank you again for the opportunity to look after the audit. I'll keep my comments fairly short, but please stop me if there's any questions that I'm going through, because I think at this point everything is relatively straightforward and consistent with where we would have been in the previous years. With the audit complete, the financial indicators report has been done and submitted as well on April 3rd. Our audit report is unqualified, so everything we've looked for in the audit, the scope of our examination, we were giving everything that we were looking for and got appropriate answers to everything, so it's an unqualified, clean audit opinion. The statement that I'm actually presenting today, although you might have the individual entity statements, is the consolidated statement. So with a consolidated statement, what that means is that's a combination of every entity that council are responsible for. So in this case, that's the water and housing, the general fund, any of the reserves, your proportionate share of the planning commission and Landry Lake. So that would all be wrapped into one financial statement as the consolidated statement. So I think I'll have some comments afterwards, but what I planned on doing is just going through the main sections of the statement. So page 4 of the financial statement is the statement of financial position. So just in terms of some of the highlights there, what you'll see year over year is your financial assets, your cash and your receivables are very similar to last year.
We are aware of what the arrow changes were this year. I'm just wondering, John, if you could, just for the folks at home who are probably sitting there wondering why we're reviewing financial statements as another fiscal year has come and gone, and I think it would be important to give them a little bit of information in terms of what took so long this year, like what were the changes that happened and why there was a delay for financials.
That's a really good question. I think it's important to address that. Just in terms of the process, and I know you mentioned your team, we've received the full cooperation of your team and had things done. So the majority of our audit work was probably completed working with your group in June, July, that period. So it's been done for a while. The accounting standards changed this year to introduce the asset retirement obligation, which is, as I kind of stated earlier, is looking at all of the assets that the municipality would own and looking to see if there's remediation costs associated with that. So clearly one of them would be landfill sites, but also it could be derelict buildings, it could be like asbestos, those types of things. And what the standard is looking to do is bring that into the municipality's financial statements so that's reflected as a liability. What it does is it looks and says that might not happen for 10 years, so it looks at the cost of what that remediation is estimated to be and then brings it back to today's dollars. And then over each year in the financial statements, we would increase the liability, so in 10 years that provision would be there in the municipality statements. But that work did require an engineering study of all of your physical assets, your tangible assets. And I think with that happening to every municipality, every basically government organization at the same time, the engineering firms were behind with that. So we really didn't receive that full ARO report until January or February, somewhere in there, and then a chance to kind of finalize the statement. So that did delay the financial statement this year. We would expect to be back on a normal timing for next year.
Let's start at the top with the audited financial statements.
Sure.
It seemed to be basically, it seemed to be in line with past years. There didn't seem to be anything that stuck out or anything that was He said basically the word consistency seemed to be used a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So, we're really pleased to have the audited financials completed this year. As the, auditing partner, John McNeil from Grant Thornton explained this evening, there were some new financial reporting obligations related to asset retirement that we had to incorporate, that every municipality in the province had to incorporate this year. So it has taken us a bit longer than what would be our normal timeline. But we're really pleased to say that we got there, and we got there because of the work of Grant Thornton. But also, John McNeil referred to this evening to the high level of cooperation he received from our staff here in the municipality and the financial team. And of course, I also want to credit our public member on the audit committee, Paula Jesty, who's been an incredible source of information and clarity for our committee.
Next, the municipality received some bad news via correspondence from the Minister of Public Works, Kim Maslin.
So the next item on the agenda is for information purposes only, and it is from the Honourable Kim Maslin, Minister of Public Works, regarding the cost share program for paving subdivision or J-class streets for the fiscal year coming up in 2024-25. Do councillors have any questions or comments about that item on the agenda? Councillor?
It's just sad. That's all. Getting rejected is sad.
So which project was it that was denied for funding under the J-class road sharing application that you made to the provincial
Yeah, so
government?
we had put forward several roads. We had put forward Lobster Plant Road, Kings Road, Forgeron Road, and Sampson Road. So we had put forward several of these roads for consideration into the cost share J-class road program. Unfortunately, due to budgetary constraints at the provincial level, none of them could be pursued this year. So we're going to keep looking into this program and see if there's a future opportunity that we can look at to help improve some of the J-class road infrastructure.
Near the conclusion of the meeting, councillors talked about the lack of action from Nova Scotia Power when it comes to streetlights.
We'll move on to items added to the agenda, and this item is streetlights. So over to you, Councillor Digdon. I believe you wanted to.
I do. So I just, first of all, I'll apologize to the CEO for not sending him off an email very quick, or to our Director of Public Works. But I'm not sure what our next step is. I know Chris made several attempts to NSP and for streetlights, and it's been probably going close to a year. And when I say several, I mean probably up towards 4. So I'm not sure what the next step is. I don't know if it's a letter from council to NSP, or if I can send Chris off another reminder maybe to reach back out. I really don't know.
Is this regarding a specific street light or just street lights in general?
Sorry, there was 3 new installs for probably the last year. I know there's some in other districts that he had also sent off and they're not getting replied to. Or
Some of the streetlights are going in very quickly, and some of them have required a little more persistence. So my advice to Councillor is, and I hate every time I email Carla to say, hey, have we heard anything? So also maybe what you don't know is that when they put in the request for the streetlights, which I found this out more than recently, they don't get a confirmation that it's actually been done. So unless you continue to tell them it's not being done, they would not hound NSP about it because they don't know it didn't happen. So what I have found is that persistence has been, because if you push, they just keep pushing it up. And the message I got from people in different places was that the persistence is the answer to that. So it's just unfortunate. I think what happens is every time they just get their feet underneath them, then another instance happens and they're buried in work, and then people take time off and then they're buried again. So I think it's been a little bit of that.
Thank you, Councillor Melanie Sampson. So, Councillor Digdon, at this stage, I guess I would just encourage some follow-up, maybe reconnect back with staff, and let's just monitor the situation. And if we see that, progress is not being made in the next, month or so, then perhaps we could, look at writing a letter. And I'm happy to add my voice to that. I know sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So.
Lags and service delays from Nova Scotia Power, and a couple of councillors have mentioned that, having trouble getting word back from them, talking about streetlights and things like that. So maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit. What have you encountered, or not just experienced, but have heard about from the others?
Yeah, so certainly over the last number of years, we've noticed that, as we put streetlight requests in, as per our municipal policy on that, we've noticed that the timeline between the request going in and then the actual scoping of the project and then the actual implementation of the streetlight project, it's taking longer and longer. And I know that our Nova Scotia Power teams have been really stretched with, everything from Hurricane Fiona to, high winds and other natural, climate-related emergencies. So we're, at the end of the day, trying to be understanding of those constraints, but also, really recognizing that when we do put a streetlight request in, it's often for the reason of, public safety. Someone feels that a certain area of the county needs to be better lit to improve safety, to improve visibility. So we're really wanting to follow up on those streetlight requests. So at this time, we're just going to pursue those.
After the meeting, Richmond Warden Amanda Mumbricket spoke with Tello about the recently hired interim Chief Financial Officer. Has an interim CFO been hired, and is it Jim Davis from Port Hawkesbury? Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct. Yeah, the interim CFO currently is Jim Davis.
when was he hired?
I'd have to check back for the exact date, but he's been with us a number of weeks, and certainly has been a big part of assisting us, getting through to the final audit, as well as preparing for budget discussions, which are coming up here in the next week or so.
Yes. So the current CFO is he on a leave? Is it look like it's an interim situation? He'll be returning. How much can you talk about
I
that?
can't comment on a personnel matter, Jake. I'd be really uncomfortable in doing that. But what I can tell you is that Jim Davis has been hired with us on a very interim basis, and his contract is finite. It has a beginning and an end date. I'd have to look those up for you. But that's about all I can say on that at this point.
What are his qualifications? Do you have any some bio information you can share?
I could grab that for you. I mean, I've known Jim, Mr. Davis personally for quite a long time. He was, spent some time as a CFO in the town of Port Hawkesbury, as well as most recently assisting with the town of Mulgrave in that regard. So he's got decades of experience under his belt. So it's been really great to have him on board as a voice of experience to be able to assist us during this period.
Now, you just mentioned the budgetary process, and you don't anticipate that this changeover, or, well, I don't even know if you want to call it changeover, will affect the budget process at all. Everything's on the same timeline as far as that goes. And when do you expect to approve it at the same time as you did last year? And all that?
We're anticipating to have budget completed by June at the latest, which is typical of what our budgetary cycle has been. I know there's been some discussion at the council table around maybe tightening the timeline up and getting it closer to the to the May period. But as of this year, we're certainly going to be in a position by the end of June to be moving forward with a budget that's approved by council.
Thank you for watching. Please tune in again to see what's happening on the record.